Hey guys, welcome to a new video of Bitcoin Edge. Today we have a talk with trader Samwise. Hi Sam, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So Sam is a Twitch streamer. He started streaming, I think. When did you start streaming actually?
Yeah, so I started actually only last summer, so it's only was like a year ago, but I only did it
Okay.
briefly. And then basically when the bull market started, I was it just made sense to show some of the stuff I was doing. I had some people that wanted to see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so really took off maybe January, February. I think
Mm-hmm.
consistently I started like the very beginning of February of this year. So it's been
Really?
like 6, 7 months consistently, yeah.
Wow, wow.
But since then, I've left it on, so it's been 24/7. The stream is nonstop. So I'm most of the time not on mic or anything, obviously, but
Yeah.
I just leave it on. It's been on the whole
Oh.
time.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times and I was like, but he's not talking, and I'm
I know,
I'm
I know.
I'm like a complete noob to Twitch, right? I'm like, what is this stuff?
No,
But
it's
now I
pretty
get
weird.
it. But you're
People come in who don't know what's going on too, and wonder like why people are why are watching this guy who's not even there.
mm-hmm.
And I get that. I mean, if you're not used to what's up, I think but people want it on. I like was on vacation briefly and I turned off the stream
Mm-hmm.
a couple months ago, and people were like freaking out. It was like pandemonium in the chat. People were losing their minds. So apparently, I don't know why, but the people want to see, even if I'm not in the trade, even if I'm not there, they want the stream on. So
Wow.
I have to give the people what they want.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, of course. That's good. That's good. And your Discord is pretty active as well. I joined his Discord
Yeah,
and it's pretty active as well.
yeah. So I mean, we've got a lot of really good community members.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of regulars,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got some good mods, people who sort of facilitate the whole community. So
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of different sort of factions, people doing different things.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that there's a handful of mods that really are pushing the show and make it interesting and keep the community active because I'm always busy just like juggling my startup, juggling trading, juggling my personal life. So I owe them for sure a
Mm-hmm.
lot just to make everything work, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel that. Ah, that's good. That's good. And you started trading in 2017, you said?
Yeah, so I started late 2017. I graduated university 2018, spring
Mm-hmm.
2018. So I basically started like summer, fall of my last year of university, undergrad. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like super early 20s, maybe 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a computer science major, so I was already kind of like I knew what Bitcoin was,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously I didn't have any like experience as a trader. Like it's one thing to know
Yeah.
like technology or hear about it, but it's totally
Mm-hmm.
different to be involved as a financial like trader.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so I had done a little bit of stock market trading, not to very much success, but
Mm-hmm.
I had like joined there was a club on campus, I think, in my freshman year, sophomore year. That
Mm-hmm.
was like that's sorry, I'm from the States, so it's first, second year. So my first or second year I kind of like dabbled in that. But then I just like went all in. I have like that personality type where I don't do anything half-ass. And
Mm-hmm.
so I basically I'd done a summer internship, paid internship at a Silicon Valley company. So I had a good amount of savings from that. They paid us pretty well since it was like, you know, Silicon Valley startup type. Well, it wasn't a startup, it was a big company, but it was a software dev. So
Mm-hmm.
I had like 30 grand from that job that I hadn't really spent.
That's
So I took all that
mm-hmm.
money and I just went all in like an
Wow.
absolute idiot. And yeah, I mean I had no idea what I was doing. I basically I just took that money and I started out buying Bitcoin on Coinbase,
Mm-hmm.
and I quickly started buying Ethereum and a bunch of other Ripple, Stellar, stuff like that. It
Mm-hmm.
started with the majors, and then it kind of went into sort of mid caps,
Mm-hmm.
2017 mid caps. I
Mm-hmm.
never got too deep into like the really garbage stuff, but I'd say I was pretty deep into like I don't know, a lot of them. I mean, most of them are the same things that are still around today. So
Mm-hmm.
the more popular 2017 coins. So all that stuff. Basically, I I paid for a paid group I was a part of because I had no idea what I was doing. So
Yeah, yeah.
I was in this. Yeah, I was in this. It wasn't a pump and dump. I would say that in terms of paid groups, it was
Mm-hmm.
probably better than the average, but it still was, I mean, it still was garbage looking back on it.
Yeah.
Um,
And technical
but it's
analysis
not like I
wise, or
didn't get
what was it
scammed.
about? Like technical analysis or?
Oh, the group or my
Mm-hmm.
strategy or
Yeah,
what?
the
The whole
group.
thing?
Yeah, and your strategy back then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the group was like fundamentals basically.
Mm.
It wasn't a day trading thing. It was more of like a swing trading or investing thing. And so it was like basically like, hey, what altcoin is, I mean, it was like altcoin investing. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
what altcoin has the pump potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was the kind of thing that it was like holding stuff for a month or two at least.
Mm-hmm.
We were looking for like 10x 10x returns.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
kind of thing that like, you always chase in crypto. But back in 2017, that was like the norm. I don't know. Were you around? Were you involved back then or?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I was.
yeah, yeah. So you remember?
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, it's crazy, and there's still some of that left today. But at least I think expectations are a little bit more realistic nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's stuff that goes crazy, but I just remember in 2017, it was just like you just bought anything, and it
Yeah.
was like if it didn't 10x, that was a failure.
You saw a
Like
bull
the
flag and you
standards were
bought it
insane.
basically. Yeah.
I know, yeah, yep. So and then so this was like I guess through 2017 and then early 2018, it was just I just I mean you couldn't really fail,
Mm-hmm.
or I mean you could, but it was hard. So
I mean, failing you
then
did in
I decided.
2008, right? Like 2018. Sorry. That
Oh, I
was.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm drinking some water now.
Sure.
Yeah. So, anyways, I decided to get a little more adventurous. So I was
Mm-hmm.
doing well. I had basically turned that into like a couple hundred K,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
over a couple of months, maybe,
I mean,
which is, I
that's.
mean, it's like so insane to think about.
Yeah.
Like I was a college kid. I had no idea what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was really lucky. I didn't have any college debt. I grew up like, I'm like middle class. So I had some of the privileges that I think, things that I didn't have to worry about, which is the only reason I was stupid enough to gamble my money. Like if
Mm-hmm.
I had to pay my college debt loans, I would not have gone all in on crypto. So I can't,
I
so
mean,
that's just the reality. But basically, yeah, so I started I started trading on Bitfinex
mm-hmm.
maybe 2018, early 2018, and I got into their spot margin. So that was like my first experience with leverage. So
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, I'm now trading the same garbage that I was trading before, but now it's on like up to I think it was 3x leverage was
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
spot margin.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean for a while that was awesome, right? It was like everything was working. So now I was just making 3x as much money as before, which was great.
Yeah.
So that just like, I mean, things were just compounding. And then I this was like, so I got into the spot margin basically after the top on Bitcoin. So
Mm-hmm.
the Bitcoin 2017 peak, right? Like December
Mm-hmm.
when it finally hit like 20K basically, and then it never went back up again until this cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like it was after that. That was when I got into the spot margin stuff on Bitfinex. But I don't know if you remember, there was a bunch of alts that did really well in like January, February of
Yeah.
2018.
I
It
think
was
that.
like the
Yeah, like 66 days after it, I think
yeah,
Ethereum topped
exactly.
after Bitcoin, something like
Right,
that.
right, 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 right. Yeah, yeah. So there was like, even though Bitcoin topped pretty early in that
Mm-hmm.
cycle, there was a bunch of stuff afterwards that did like, I mean, most of the alts I think topped after.
Yeah.
So I got into like spot margin on Bitfinex right in time to
Mm-hmm.
basically ride all the altcoins. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just like spot margin long. It was like Ripple, Stellar Lumens, XMR,
Mm-hmm.
ZEC, it was like all that like mid cap stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like garbage. I wasn't trading on like Yobit or anything, but
Yeah.
it was still like risky.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the prices back then, it's like insane. Obviously
Mm-hmm.
we never really recovered back to those highs, except for a few things did, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so eventually those things started falling, and then obviously I didn't know what I was doing. I was not prepared to deal with the risk.
No. No.
So I got liquidated on Bitfinex for like a $500,000 B Bitcoin Cash position on 3x spot long. But
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, you got to keep your maintenance margin
Mm-hmm.
on Bitfinex spot margin. I don't know how it works today. I don't trade there anymore, but so basically I even though I got liquidated on that position, I still had a ton of money left from that account.
Mm-hmm.
So my maintenance margin, I still had like 150 grand left in that account somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So I took all that money. So I basically run up an account from like 30K to like shy of a mil over the course of like 6 months, just being an absolute moron, right?
Yeah.
And then the market finally started tanking, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I lost a ton of money. I
Mm-hmm.
got liquidated on Bitfinex finally, but it was basically one big B cash position that got liquidated.
Yeah.
That was like the biggest loss that I've ever had at the time. But I
Mm-hmm.
still had like 150K left
Mm-hmm.
from from the maintenance margin and other things in Bitfinex. So I sent all that money over to BitMEX
Oh,
because it was
even
like I was
better.
just like in the
Yeah.
yeah, I know, even better, exactly. I was in such a fuck it mentality at that point,
Yeah.
like I'd already lost. I I had made all this money and then I felt entitled to it. So even
Mm-hmm.
though I was still up, my benchmark was completely wrong now because I had at one point had all this money, so all of a sudden I felt like the market owed me.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I took all that money and put it onto BitMEX, and I gambled. Basically, I mean, it was completely gambling, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely out of control. I
Mm-hmm.
still did really well for the first like maybe few weeks. I was
Mm-hmm.
just, I mean, it was like all over the place. So I maybe 3 or 4x my account, and then it went back down to where I'd started. So I went like from like I basically bounced between like maybe 100 and 500K notional size on BitMEX for maybe a couple of months until
Mm-hmm.
I finally just lost it all. And at
Okay.
that point,
And
I was
when was
wiped.
it? When was it? Was this? I'm pulling up
This was
charts
like
now.
right when I graduated university. So this would have been like June of 2018.
June
So I had
2018.
just graduated.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it was really brutal. I was
Mm-hmm.
like 2018 and early, like second half of 2018, first half of 2019 was one of the like roughest places I've ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like pretty devastating if you can imagine.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
I wasn't like on the street or anything. I had a job, I had a software job that was paying enough for me to basically afford to live and stuff. So I was fortunate because I had a good degree and I had a good paying job, but I had obviously like just gone through this emotional roller coaster and was sort of trying to emotionally recover from this insane journey. But I was still completely hooked, and not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
I was like very far from being competent as a trader.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even trading. It was complete gambling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so what I did is I basically was taking a lot of I would take the money I was making at my job
Mm-hmm.
and I would pay my bills,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and then I would take the whatever I had left and I would just gamble it on BitMEX. I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
like absolute poster child of like a gambling addiction,
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of thing where you see in like movies. It was like that was my life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that there are people like that today,
Mm-hmm.
all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I completely feel for that. I think I probably have a pretty addictive personality,
Mm-hmm.
too, which didn't help. So I was like already predisposed to like, wanting to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really like determined, like I felt like I could do it for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
even though there was no evidence that like I was going to succeed, right? Like I couldn't see the future. I had no idea that it was going to work. So I was completely just flailing.
Yeah.
Anyways, eventually I stopped. Maybe in late 2018, I stopped depositing large amounts of money and I started to just trade tiny size. So
Yeah.
that was like the first respite from like this miserable cycle I was in.
Yeah.
I finally was able to come to terms with the fact that I'd lost this money and it was never coming back. And that if I wanted to play this game, it wasn't going to be the same. I wasn't going to be like me trying to make back money I lost.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't going to be a quick get rich scheme. If I wanted to play, it was going to be a slow and very long process. So basically I started to sort of just focus on my job and then trade small amounts of money and
Mm-hmm.
not feel and I mean that was like it was so life changing because I basically went from this position where I was emotionally just drained all the time because I was always losing money, like huge
Mm-hmm.
amounts of money, to finally being in a position where, yeah, I didn't want to lose, but it wasn't like I was gambling money that was like huge.
Yeah.
And that was the first big success. That was like when everything started to change. This was early 2019. So now I'm trading really small size at this point. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously I'm not destined to like make a bunch of money this way, but it changed my life because all of a sudden I got my life back, right? I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't in a hole trying to climb out by gambling more.
Yeah.
And that was when I learned how to trade. So basically, like early 2019 was when I'd say I grew more. I grew more in 2019 than ever because I was taking it seriously and I wasn't gambling like my life savings every day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was the big turning point. And what happened from there is I still made some big mistakes. So I lost I would build up an account for a long time, couple of months, 3 months, 4 months, and
Mm-hmm.
then I would go into sort of a tailspin and lose a lot of it. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd lose money I'd made. I didn't lose like my life savings, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was still a problem. I still had lots of problems as a trader, but the price I was paying wasn't nearly as big as it was before.
Yeah.
I could afford to learn these lessons now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So through 2019, I still like had a ton I had to learn, but I was able to afford to learn it, and I didn't lose everything in the process again.
Mm-hmm.
So in sort of late 2019, I basically started to get a lot of my tail risk under control, and I nipped most of my really bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
These bad habits were the obvious habits. They're the things that everyone knows, but you have to learn. These
Yeah.
were things like daily loss limits, so you don't end up in a rut where you just you don't trade on tilt and lose everything in a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So things like daily loss limits, being able to walk away from a trade when you need to cut it,
Yeah.
being able to
Yeah.
take a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, being able to take profit at the right place, not hold too long.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking profit like probably too early, but I think that was okay. Like I look back on the way I traded in 2019 and 2020, and I think I was taking profit way too early back then. But actually, I don't think that's that bad. Like if I had to give anyone advice who's trying to figure it out, taking profit too early is fine as long as you commit and don't FOMO
I
back in
mean, I
afterwards, you know?
mean, yeah, exactly. And nobody ever, went broke taking profit, right?
Right, taking profit early.
I mean,
Completely.
many
And
people,
you can always work on that later. Like
yeah.
if you can figure out how to make it work at all, then
Mm-hmm.
you can adjust those things after you're already profitable, just
Yeah.
to get more profitable.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect off the bat. You just have to be good enough, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so anyways, then I yeah, so
So
I
but
basically
by the
had,
way, I have the chart with me. If you talk about certain
oh
dates,
yeah, yeah.
I pointed the months, you were talking about earlier, just so people know in the screen what
Oh
happened in the
yeah,
price over
I'm
there.
doing it
So
off the top of my head, so hopefully I'm somewhat accurate. But
yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think most people have been around since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Probably have all this ingrained in their in their brain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I remember a few points in 2018 that were just like absolutely brutal. I remember depositing a ton of money from my job right before we broke 6K for the last
Oh
time.
yeah.
So I bought at that if you look right on the first day we broke 6K,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see that consolidation below, like in the 5K area. I basically went like hard long there. I have no idea why. I look back on that and it's like, what was I doing? But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I lost like a few months' salary there in a
Mm-hmm.
day.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept doing that throughout 20 late 2018, early 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just the late 2019 that really when things clicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then in late 2019, I think it was late 2019 or early 2020, I was going through a bunch of accounts that I had I had to do some tax stuff. I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to write off losses and just get all of my accounting in under control.
Mm-hmm.
And so I logged into a bunch of a bunch of my BitMEX accounts, and I found this old BitMEX account that I had used to refer myself. So it was
Mhm.
like like I was a refer to myself.
Mhm.
I think I used somebody else, like a family member or something. So
Mhm.
technically they referred me. But this was back when I was trading huge amounts of money on BitMEX, but I was
Mhm.
totally gambling. So like the
Mhm.
fees were huge back then.
Mhm.
So that account had something like little over 2 Bitcoin in ref payments,
Mhm.
affiliate payments that I
Mhm.
had generated myself. Let me see if I can find this for you. It's pretty
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
yeah, hold on a second. Yeah, so here we go. There it is. So this is um this was the account. I logged into this account. I had no idea I had this money. Like this was just totally unexpected. I completely forgotten about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I logged in and I all of a sudden had like a little over 2 Bitcoin that I didn't expect to have. And so basically I took that money and I withdrew it from BitMEX. Um, and I started, I actually, no, I traded it on BitMEX for a little bit, but then eventually I switched to Bybit pretty soon after that. So I
Mhm.
then ended up moving it to Bybit.
Mhm.
And all of the money I have today is basically derived from that. So
Really.
I I found that money, and when I found it, I was like, okay, this is like one of those once in a lifetime
Mhm.
things where the universe or something is just giving you a second chance, right?
Yeah.
And so I took that and I took it really seriously. So instead of like adjusting my position size to match my newfound wealth,
Mhm.
I basically kept trading the same size that I was trading before, but I had this buffer
Mhm.
basically. So instead of like increasing my size, I just traded the same but with more of a safety net.
Yeah.
And slowly, the habits I built, the strategies I built were already there, and it was sort of like the safety net gave me the confidence to really pursue it. And yeah, and I mean that's it. Basically, I never lost it all again after that. At least
Mhm.
not yet,
Mhm.
so
And
far.
yeah, no, 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 very good, very good. And what do you trade based on? You were talking earlier about like basic
Yeah.
horizontals, and
Yep.
salsa was something you look up to, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So this whole story I've been talking, I mean, when I talk about like learning how to trade
Mhm.
or like getting good habits, a lot of that learning was following people that I still look up to this day
Mhm.
on Twitter mostly.
Mhm.
And I would say that Salsa Tequila was I had a tweet deck. I had a tweet deck column dedicated to salsa for for a couple of years at least.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, he was learning at the same time, but he has this like ability, I think, to I don't know, he can be very honest with himself and is
Mhm.
able to make adjustments faster than I think anyone else can in order to be in the right position at the right time. So he's able to nip his bad habits pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably just his personality. He's been doing like gambling stuff since he was a kid. He's been
Yeah.
like I think in the interview he talked about it, but
Yeah.
he did that MMO
Mhm.
gambling. I mean, he's like he's a gambler at
Yeah.
heart, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So so anyways, yeah. So I would follow. I mean, I basically learned how to trade by following him, but also watching crypto cred videos,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I trade based on it's almost all discretionary. So it's
Mhm.
not like I have like hard coded metrics or thresholds
Mhm.
at which point I make a decision.
Mhm.
It's almost all based on my own sort of on the fly analysis in my head of what's going on.
Mhm.
So that involves mostly horizontal levels, so like order blocks and wicks areas of just horizontal support and resistance. So I think that's probably like the first thing people in crypto learn when it comes to technical analysis. I
Mhm.
still rely on that, tremendously. I don't use trend lines as much as maybe other people do, but I still use them. Trend lines, I mean, they obviously work.
Mm-hmm.
Trend lines, you just have to be careful that you're drawing them in a way that doesn't fit your bias. I think it's easier to bias fit a trend line than it is to bias fit a horizontal line, because trend
Mm-hmm.
lines oftentimes have more ambiguous like wicks that touch different places. So like
Mm-hmm.
I'll see people draw trend lines, and then the trend line will just like they'll just like fit the trend line exactly where their bias is,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So you got
yeah.
to be careful with that. But trend
Mm-hmm.
lines obviously work. You just have to know what you're doing. But yeah, horizontal consolidation areas, aka like order blocks, and
Mm-hmm.
then also like wicks. Um, all this stuff is crypto cred. I mean, you can look this stuff up. Anybody can.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got great content. I think he's remaking some of his videos too. And then I will look at funding. I look at open interest for futures.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I look at nowadays. I used to look at BitMEX, but nowadays I look at Bybit and Binance open interest mostly, as
Mm-hmm.
well as aggregated open interest for the linear and inverse futures.
Mm-hmm.
So I use Coinalyze. Do you know Coinalyze?
Yeah, yeah, I know it. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
yeah. Okay. So they've got a cool aggregated open interest indicator, as well as aggregated liquidations, which I
yeah.
think
Mm-hmm.
are really useful, and it's free, which is cool.
Yeah,
So I'll
yeah.
just keep an eye on that. I keep an eye on what else. I mean, those are like the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it is sort of just reacting. So if I have a bias where like I think the price is going to go up, for example, because of like the macro picture, or maybe we like, for example, like let's just look at what's going on right now, just because it's like in the context,
Yeah.
it's relevant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty bearish for the last like a month and a half,
Mm-hmm.
and I sold all my spot around 34K maybe a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sort of shorting as we broke down. I made a lot of money shorting even down below 30K. I shorted above, and I closed a lot of it in the 29 area. And I didn't buy back my spot at 29K, right? So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, I mean, this looks pretty bad. It kind of reminded me of the fractal we had at 6K, where
Mm-hmm.
we broke down that last time, and then we consolidated at 5K, and then we finally broke down again.
Mm-hmm.
So when we broke back up above 30K about a week ago, that was like a huge high time frame bias shift for me. I rebought my spot around 31.6, 31.7K. I rebought a bunch of spot.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, again, like that wasn't there was no like metrics. I didn't have like I didn't get a bot alert that said, hey, rebuy
Mm-hmm.
spot.
Mm-hmm.
It was all just like, well, we were gonna break down. It looks like we were breaking down, and then we didn't break down.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, if we break down again, there's a tight invalidation for sort of like my spot buys. If we break down below 30K again, I'll probably be quick to get out of any buys because it's pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't break down again, and this really is bullish, I don't want to be the guy who's doesn't own any Bitcoin when we go back up,
Mm-hmm.
and have to worry about like if you don't own any Bitcoin, that's actually like yeah, there's risk. I tweeted this yesterday. There's risk to buying spot, but there's also risk to like not owning Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like if you don't own anything, well, I guess you're long the dollar, which isn't great. And you'll have to worry about like fighting your own FOMO as Bitcoin goes back up. So like Bitcoin might hit 35, 36, 37K and I don't own anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to cause a lot of anxiety. I
Yeah.
mean, like I'm going to be sitting there like, "Oh my God, like look at all this money that I've basically wasted by not owning anything." So there's risk to everything. But
Mm-hmm.
basically, I just saw that and was like, "Okay, well, I don't want to be the guy who doesn't own anything." So I rebought. And then I just have been scalping since, mostly with a
Mm-hmm.
long bias. So that's just a good example, I think, of like a high time bias. So starting with the bias, I had a bearish bias for almost all of last month. I flipped my bias mostly when we broke back up above 30K,
Mm-hmm.
and all of my trades are based around having some sort of directional bias, or my bias could be range. Like I don't have to be betting on up or down, but I want to have some high time frame bias. And then
Mm-hmm.
the rest of it is just intraday stuff. finding good entries where like there's a good invalidation. So on like I trade almost all on the hourly time frame personally.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that is everything from setups to entries. It's all hourly.
Mm-hmm.
So I will look for us to like do something like a swing fail pattern.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to buy, like right now, I want to look for buys. I might wait for things to wick down below support and take out a bunch of stops and then
Mm-hmm.
come back up.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden you wiped out a bunch of late longers. You've got clear invalidation below the last wick you just took,
Mm-hmm.
and and your high time frame bias is bullish, right? So
Yeah.
you get everything. You get everything. So it's high time frame bias, a good invalidation, ideally recent invalidation. I don't want to look for like really old price action for my
Yeah.
invalidation. So like
Mm-hmm.
I want to see us take out the lows and then bounce back up because that wicks out a bunch of stops and it gives you invalidation, tight invalidation. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really just high time frame bias with good invalidation and then using generic technical analysis. I'm not doing anything mind blowing, right? Like it's like I didn't
Yeah.
reinvent the wheel
It's
here.
it's no it's no
I don't
rocket
have any
science.
secrets.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what? How did you build, by the way, your trading setup? How did that like go? Um,
Yeah.
because
Like my computers, my
yeah,
the
yeah, it's
that
pretty
whole thing.
impressive. Yeah, like man, that's
So I give me a second to defend myself here. I
oh
got
no,
to defend myself.
you don't have to you defend yourself. It's just
No,
like
I do. I
it's an
do. So
impressive
so
art
there's three.
piece, you know.
Okay, there's three things going on here. The first thing is trading. Obviously, as a trader, I think you can probably trade with two screens. I do it sometimes when I need to. I mean, I trade on my
Mhm.
phone. Like I'm not an adamant like anti-phone trader. I've made it work. But I think you need at least two screens to trade well. Like you
Mhm.
need one to monitor something, and you need another one to actually trade on.
Mhm.
So if I'm comfortable, I want at least three, probably three or four monitors total to
Mhm.
trade. So like I'm usually trading FTX and Bybit at the same time. So that's two screens already because I don't want to have to switch between them.
Mhm.
And then I have one screen that's for like a bunch of metrics. So that would be like Coinalyze, Agger, like maybe some heat map stuff, liquidation data, all that stuff. Like if you're looking at that screenshot,
Yeah,
do you have it open?
it's open now. It's yeah,
Yeah.
we're not
So if
zoomed
I
in,
can
but
I'll show you. I'll just walk through this real quick. So the two up on the left, the two up on that like hutch
mhm.
thing that's where I'm streaming from,
Mhm.
and those have that has on the right has my Bybit set up, and the left is my FTX one.
Mhm.
That's running off that Mac Mini right there.
Mhm.
The quad monitors that are mounted on that center post off the
Mhm.
desk,
Mhm.
those are running off of a desktop PC that's
Mhm.
down in the corner there.
Mhm.
Those have like just a general purpose desktop I use, and then the top left one has got Crypto Watch and for just some order book stuff, and then I also have like my Twitch chat up there. The top right one has trading view charts, and
Mhm.
the bottom right one has like all of my other metrics for trading.
Okay.
Excuse me. So it has Agger. I have a BitMEX order book there. I have the Coinalyze stuff. I've got
A tweet deck and a
some
pad, I
heat map
think.
stuff, all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's.
then the top one, that top TV
Mhm.
is I have an old laptop plugged into that thing.
Mhm.
I use that for like watching Bloomberg News and stuff sometimes. Like when we were, the Corona crash,
Yeah.
I just had like Bloomberg news up there like 24/7. So that I
Okay.
use that for like if I want to watch like something. Sometimes I'll watch podcasts or something up there too.
Mhm.
Or I'll just leave like a chart up there.
Mhm.
And then all of my laptop stuff is mostly for coding, for software development, since
Mhm.
I don't work for my old company anymore. But I still am. We can talk a little bit more about this later. But I've got my startup, Teal Street, where we've got basically it's a front end software terminal. So there's only four of us right now. So I'm
Mhm.
still I'm still very hands on
Mhm.
coding that. So that's basically it. The rest of those like are just, tablets and stuff. They're just, whatever I need them to be. I take them with me. Like I have with me right now traveling. I have my I have my primary laptop and a backup, my trading laptop, and then I got
Mm-hmm.
a few iPads for extra screen real estate, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically the streaming takes some monitors, trading
Mm-hmm.
takes some monitors, and then programming takes some monitors.
Yeah.
And then also I need a monitor to use for whatever, like just watching stuff or just looking up. I need a computer too, like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do computer things. So it adds up. Obviously, I don't need all of
And
it.
like not to be when we're talking about training setups, and I get a lot of shit from my friends, but I'm sitting on a wooden stool. What do you sit on?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, this is great. You're gonna love this. I stand.
You
I
stand.
stand all day. I'm
Hardcore.
insane. Yeah. So people, so I totally respect your wooden stool.
Yes,
I
thanks.
like it. I like it a lot. I've legitimately talked about this in chat. If I had to just do sort of an introspective analysis, I would guess that I make probably like 5-10% more money every year because I stand all day trading.
Really,
And
really.
I don't know if this is just me, but it's like a mindset thing. Like trading is almost closer to like a sport than it
Mm-hmm.
is to like
Mm-hmm.
anything else. You have to make really hard decisions. You have to be confident in yourself and your decisions. You need to be like you're going into battle almost, right?
Yeah.
And so for me being able to stand, I'm like I make better decisions. I'm more confident and I'm just more alert
Mm-hmm.
standing.
I mean,
So
for
I just
doing
do
a
that all day.
sales phone call or something, they always say like go stand, because you're
Oh yeah,
more active
I'm
and
standing
more.
right now.
Well, let me get stand, like okay,
There
I'll stand up with the mic.
you go.
So yeah, but I mean, I feel it, you're way more active, and it sounds pretty stupid though. We're standing here both, but yeah, it's exactly, yeah, you're way more active,
Yeah.
but don't you get like painful hips or something, or you're still
Yeah,
using
yeah. So
legs?
actually, my knees have started to get sore. So no, it's actually legitimately a thing. Yeah, because it's like not really good for you to stand all day. So it's
No.
not like I'm not doing it as like a health measure. Like sitting isn't
Mm-hmm.
good for you either. I think
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to like alternate
Mm-hmm.
between sitting and standing is
Mm-hmm.
sort of like the best. So I
Mm-hmm.
have a chair that is that's like there at my desk, but my keyboards and my mouse are like up too high for me to really reach them. So
Mm-hmm.
usually what I'll do is I'll sit for like maybe 10 minutes every hour or so. I don't really time it, but I'll take a quick break and sit. I'll sort of just reflect or whatever I need to do. It's a good time to just chill.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stand back up if I need to, or if the price is doing something I
Mm-hmm.
need to trade.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a chair, but it's not. The problem is that my it's not a proper standing desk that I could lower or raise.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to basically stand back up to do anything.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I feel you.
so I'm standing like 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I probably got to be careful. I don't think it's going to be great for my knees or hips forever.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
for now, it works, and I genuinely think it's paying for itself. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. This is like it's no joke. I actually think I make more money just because I'm more focused and alert by
Yeah,
standing.
yeah. I feel you. I feel you. And I was gonna add something, but I just lost it again. Like, is how much hours a day or a week would you say you spend behind your computer? Weekends, is that something you spend behind
Yeah,
your computer as
yeah,
well,
yeah.
or?
It's pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
I know. It's my yeah. So it's about as bad as you can imagine it. I basically am always tuned into the market.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm at home, I'll spend basically all day, every day, including
Mm-hmm.
weekends. I my girlfriend's pretty good. She makes me go. She makes me get out of the house usually. So we'll go on like a walk or we'll do something every day.
Yeah.
So I owe her. She's gonna save my life, dude. Like I'm gonna. I'm not even kidding. I'd make all this money and be dead by 35.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Yeah.
So she's gonna make sure we live long enough to enjoy the fruits of all of our labors.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So I basically take like I try and get out of the house. But otherwise than that, I mean, when I leave the house, I use Teal Street, my own software to trade on my
Mm-hmm.
phone,
Mm-hmm.
and it's I've designed it in a way that makes it really well for mobile trading.
Mm-hmm.
So
So,
I'm
but
able to
is it
trade
like
pretty effectively.
is it like an execution platform, where you execute your
Yeah,
trades
exactly.
on
It's
okay.
like we're kind of competing with the quant towers of the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't do any of our own. Obviously, we're not an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but basically, we've just got a front end that lets you route orders to whatever exchange we support.
Mhm.
So we have the original. We're on Teal Street. The Teal Street 1.0 code base is what's up right now. It
Mhm.
it only supports Bybit and BitMEX, but we've been
Okay.
working really hard on getting this new code base launched, which has changed. We've refactored a lot of things to make it work better and
Mhm.
also to make it easier to support a bunch of different exchanges.
Mhm.
So we have a business deal with FTX, BitMEX, OKEX, FEMEX, and then we don't have a business deal with Binance, but we are going to integrate Binance. So we have
Mhm.
all of those exchanges coming in the new code base that we're trying to finish. Like I keep pushing it out because like it's development's hard and it always takes longer than you think.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So we're going to support all of those exchanges. It's all futures. So we are not doing any spot stuff right now, partly because we just have limited bandwidth, and spot is just the way spot trading works is so different than the way futures works. And also because we're focused on really fast execution, so making it so that you can submit orders really efficiently. And I think when it comes to like day trading, futures is where people do that. If
Mhm.
you need to trade spot, you don't need to trade it like rapidly. You can afford to log into the exchange that you have spot on and just like, trade your spot.
Mhm.
So I think there's more of a use case for having a really efficient front end for futures, but eventually we'd like to support spot. And then we have a mobile app, a proper mobile app that's coming out too.
But
So
does
that's
it
like
does
all
does
this
does
month.
does it also include a limit chaser?
Yeah, so we've got some of the limit chaser stuff done. We basically decided to focus on integrating more exchanges before
Mhm.
we worked on custom order types. So the limit chaser and all of that stuff is coming hopefully like by the end of this month or next month. We wanted to get support for all these other exchanges done first because there's a
Mhm.
bunch of people that trade on Binance and FTX, and I trade on FTX, and I
Mhm.
want to use Teal Street on FTX.
Mhm.
So right now, basically, what it supports, there's a bunch of quick order types that are like they allow you to place they allow you to place orders at different offsets from the top of the order book. Really easy to adjust your size. Keyboard shortcuts. You can overlay the depth chart, so you can see multiple depth charts on top of each other. You can switch between different accounts.
Mhm.
All that stuff. Things that are coming are being able to place orders on the trading view chart, limit chasers, a bunch of other custom order types, the mobile app, and it's just support for more exchanges. Those are
Cool.
all the things that we're trying to finish this summer, basically.
Oh,
So
that's mm.
it's really exciting.
Yeah.
I not to shill my own product too hard, but
Yeah. Yeah, of
I
course you are.
rely on it tremendously. And I'm so like dependent on my on Teal Street that I
Mhm.
mean I didn't build it. I built it for myself. It was
Mhm.
originally an in-house prop thing.
Mhm.
It was meant to be a proprietary terminal. It was not meant
Mhm.
to be a thing. So
Mhm.
I only spun it off into a public piece of software because there was enough demand for it,
Mhm.
and because of Twitch, people just saw me trading on it and really wanted to use it.
And
But
so
I built it for myself.
yeah, and so what is like what like is it a monthly payment subscription or something or how?
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah, right. So we're trying to keep it free. It's basically payment for order flow, which has become a pretty dirty word
Mhm.
in especially with Robinhood. But
Mhm.
because we're not actually selling your order flow to different exchanges,
Mhm.
you're trading on whatever exchange you want to trade on.
Mhm.
You don't actually like your execution has the same priority you have the native the native UI. So if you trade on Binance, for example, versus Teal Street through Binance, your execution would have the same priority. These exchanges have really, really friendly fee sharing programs for
Mhm.
people who built software. Basically, they do it based on volume. So if
Mhm.
you have enough volume through your app, um, you can basically get pretty good fee kickbacks from these exchanges. So
Ah.
we basically rely on as our primary business model right now. The idea is to keep it free if we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we're making it so that anybody who signs up right now is it's free for life. So even if we had to charge future people who are willing to take the risk and get involved at the beta level right now
Mhm.
before we finished flushing out everything, those people we will make sure always have access to it for free.
Oh, that's
Um,
pretty cool.
yeah, so that's the idea. We may at some point have to depending on how, I mean, we never know that maybe the market might change. They may change how they do fee sharing. So it's like I can't promise it will
Mm-hmm.
be free forever, but I can promise that if you sign up today, it will be free for you forever at least.
Oh,
So
that's
that's the
pretty cool.
idea.
Yeah, 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 that's pretty cool. And
Yep.
so, I mean, trading wise, this year, what has been your biggest hit, your biggest trading call,
Yeah.
basically, and how did you do it? How did you see it coming? Um,
Right.
it's a
So
bit of
obviously
a
there's
bit of a
always
jump,
luck.
from subjects, but
Bit no, no, it's all good. Yeah, so there, I mean, there was one really good setup that I took that was basically, I think every great trade involves some amount of luck.
mm-hmm,
But basically I started hedging on December futures on FTX, the
mm-hmm,
12/31 December futures,
mm-hmm,
back when we broke above 60K. They were trading at like a 70. My average sell price was like 75K, which is crazy. So
yeah,
I ended up hedging a bunch on those December futures,
mm-hmm,
and I went ahead and shorted some as well, just like net short.
mm-hmm,
This was the very first time we broke above 60K. So actually, I guess did we break a second time? I don't remember. I think we got back up to like
yeah,
nine K,
like
right?
very I mean, barely we broke it, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So basically the very first time we broke 60K, we went all the way up to like 64 and a half, I think, 64.5.
Mm-hmm,
That was when I was aggressively hedging and shorting. Why was I hedging? Why was I shorting? I had shorted before and taken losses. It's not like this was like the first time I'd ever shorted or hedged. So
mm-hmm,
it's not like I was like a magic and I just knew that was the top.
mm-hmm,
I had taken a few shorts along the way and stopped out for them.
mm-hmm,
So this was just, it was just a calculated risk.
yeah,
So I didn't know it was the top, but it looked really like a top. And also the 12/31, the December futures on FTX, we're trading at like it was like a 20 some percent premium. It was like absolutely nuts, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So when we crashed through, when we finally broke down, I was like a Sunday my time. It was in April, I think. Is that right? Something like that. It was like
yeah,
the very first time we broke down from
oh
60K. We
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
ground
April,
down
mid-April, yeah.
mid-April. Yeah. So I was net short on and I was hedged as well as short on 12/31s, the December futures. And when
Mm-hmm,
we broke down, we dropped from like 60K. The primary perpetual swaps went from like 60K to 50, 54 or 53, but a lot of the expiring futures on different exchanges went way lower. So like I think Binance was the worst. Binance's expiring futures dipped to like 45K. But FTX dipped a lot too. So like I went from shorting 75K on the because the premium was so high, so
mm-hmm,
75K, they dipped all the way down to the same price as the swaps, the perpetual swaps. So they went from
oh.
like 75K to like 55K.
You catched all the
So
premium going to
I got the whole premium collapse. Yeah. So I made like 350K that day, which for me is my biggest I've ever.
nice.
Um, I'm not. Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I mean, that's a ton of money, obviously. Like,
Mm-hmm,
I'm not complaining. That's enormous, and
mm-hmm,
I still haven't gotten close to that again. But yeah, I mean, I managed to close at basically the bottom of that premium collapse. I was literally taking a nap. I had alert set. I probably would have closed earlier on
yeah.
the dip. Like, I probably would have gotten out earlier, but because I was asleep, I missed my first alerts. And
Mm-hmm,
so when I finally got up and got out of like it was like the afternoon my time. So I finally got out of bed and I went over to my computer. I just happened to like walk over right at the bottom. I
mm-hmm,
closed and then it bounced. The only thing I messed up is I ended up buying the dip, right?
mm-hmm.
But I didn't buy the dip on the December futures. I don't know why.
Ah,
Like I
yeah.
had them there. I closed my December future shorts. I don't know why I didn't buy the dip on December futures, but for
Mm-hmm,
some reason I was maybe not thinking. I went ahead and bought on the perpetual swaps
mm-hmm,
on FTX instead. And because of that, yeah, I still made some money on the bounce when we bounced up a little bit. But I think when I bought around 54, 55K or something. We bounced maybe 1 or 2K.
mm-hmm.
And the December futures bounced like 10K because the premium recovered,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So like I could have I only nailed the downside. I still made some good money,
Yeah.
but you know, I didn't
It's
do what I didn't do as bad as Salsa. Do you remember his interview with you? He talked about it, but
mm-hmm,
he's talked about it a few times where he was trying to buy the Deribit nuke, but
mm-hmm,
like Deribit locks the maximum like the maximum offset you can
mm-hmm.
buy. They have some sort of like there's a
Mechanism now.
major there's some like if the price is way out of sync with the market, you can't even buy or sell. So
Mm-hmm.
so he spent the whole day trying to trade something that could never happen. So at least I didn't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
But that was yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's a combination of luck, a little bit of foresight, a little bit of luck,
I mean, it's
and
it's 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 also, like, I would say a little bit of brains. If somebody's
I'll
like,
take it.
if no, but I mean, if the December futures, had such a big premium, you short that.
Right,
Um,
right, yeah,
it's basically
yep,
like longing, right now, or like earlier today we had extreme negative fundings, and then you look to
right,
long something like that, and um, yeah, that's
absolutely.
that's that's it's big brain. If there's big discounts on futures, like you long that if you want to long.
Yep,
It's basically
no,
a
100%.
turbo long. It's basically
Yeah, yeah,
so.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm not like the biggest brain trader of all time, but
Mhm.
I'm smart enough to know to look for opportunities wherever I can find them.
Mhm.
And I was talking the expiring futures in chat or on my Twitch stream all the time throughout the whole bull market,
Mhm.
especially when people are like hedging, people were hedging, or even selling spot. You know what I mean? It's like if you're going to sell your Bitcoin during the bull market, that's great. But like,
Mhm.
why not sell like hedge, do cash and carry and
Mhm.
hedged December futures and capture an extra 25% of your money, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's little things you can do that can make a huge difference
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in your payout.
Mhm.
So
Totally agree.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep.
I mean, there's also, I mean, back in the day, I was always on big Bitmax, like 2017, 18, you name it, and 19. I was always on Bitmax, and the thing I always used to do was, when new futures launched, like when they just opened, like the first minute, first
Hmm.
few minutes, there was no liquidity, and
Right. Yeah.
just put in stink bits, and and it wicked so
Absolutely.
hard, and you got like immediate profits most of the times. It's just funny.
Yeah.
You do
There are
get.
so many
Mhm.
little corners of this market where there's like major inefficiencies or just people
Mhm.
just don't know like where to look for these
Mhm.
things. And I mean, obviously, there's tons of things I don't make on too. Like I'm not very big in DeFi. I've never
Me
done
neither.
anything with airdrops. So it's
Mhm.
like, it's not like I'm not saying like, hey, like I missed out on tons of money, but
Mhm.
definitely find niches where you can make extra, free money basically if
Yeah.
you as long as you play it smart.
Find your edge at Bitcoin Edge. No, no, sorry, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's no, but
exactly.
everybody has their own little edge, and
Yeah.
I mean, me personally didn't, do anything with DeFi either, and after
Yeah.
last year, like it did feel a little bit of pain, of course. Because in hindsight, it was
Yeah.
so easy, but yeah, it's.
Yeah. I got over that
Mhm.
feeling too though pretty fast because I mean, I think everyone has limited bandwidth. It's not
Mhm.
like I don't run a fund, you know what I mean? Like I'm not a
Mhm.
trader where I can like delegate to different people
Mhm.
to like, hey, like you're the DeFi guy, work on DeFi.
Yeah.
And so like I mean, it's like I'm already like so focused. Like I'm already overloaded just focusing on like what I'm doing, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so I
Mhm.
don't, it's like you can't do everything. And so you kind of have to be okay with that,
Mhm.
just understanding that you're not going to be able to attack it all.
Mhm.
Some people maybe can. I know I can, right?
Mhm.
And if you can milk money, if you can take money out of the market in any way, that's a
Mhm.
huge win. You don't have to be perfect and you don't have
Yeah.
to get everything right. You just have to get something.
Exactly. And don't forget to take a profit, because
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
mean.
Don't forget to take a profit. And one of the things too is like we were talking a little bit earlier about like knowing, taking profit early is you're not gonna you'll be fine. Like taking if you take profits too early,
Mhm.
that's not an issue that I mean, it may be an issue kind of, but it's something you could always work on later. Like you can be a profitable trader who
Mhm.
takes profits probably too early, but
Mhm.
still be profitable. The one thing you don't want to do is like I did this for a little while, like taking profits too early, but then like FOMOing back into the position. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like where you're like, oh, like I got out Like once you take those profits, it's over. The trade is over. Move on to the
Mm-hmm.
next trade. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, for sure.
And what is your
Yep.
favorite exchange, and why is that your favorite exchange?
Oh yeah, it's a really so it's obviously changed and it continues to change.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not married. Like I mean I have a for some of these exchanges, but it's not like I don't have any business deals that are binding, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
I trade where I want to trade, and I will always do that because to me that's the most valuable thing is trading where the exchange works for me the best. I think personally, still to this day, Bybit is the leader for me when it comes to Bitcoin inverse
Mm-hmm.
perpetual futures.
Mm-hmm.
I think that their matching engine is the fastest. If I look at like my average, for example, my slippage on stops
Mm-hmm.
on Bybit tends to be the lowest, lower than anywhere else I've ever traded,
Mm-hmm.
as well as their uptime is really, really good. Is it perfect? No, obviously not, but it's really good.
Yeah.
Things that I don't like about Bybit, things that I like, and this is where I trade on FTX, sort of as to subsidize that. Cross collateral on FTX, I use that a lot for
Mm-hmm.
managing bigger position, like a bigger portfolio. So
Mm-hmm.
for like if I have a diverse portfolio of altcoins or something like that that I want to manage, it's a lot easier with cross collateral to do that. But obviously,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of risk there.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you don't get liquidated. Your collateral can lose a ton of value
Mm-hmm.
because it's because you could be holding garbage as margin.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I think that Bybit is really good for like low time scalping, especially
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It also doesn't have like all the spot markets. I think they're launching a spot market, or maybe they already did,
They already did.
but
They
it
already
doesn't
did.
have. Yeah, okay, there you go. But I'm sure I haven't even looked at it to be honest. But it's probably not as robust as some of these other ones are, like Binance or FTX, in terms of like all the stuff they offer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so I think Bybit is king for me, in my opinion, for uptime and for their speed of their matching engine. And then I like FTX a lot for the cross collateral. They have a bunch of cool products. Just be careful with them. Obviously, they're not all going to be useful.
Mm-hmm.
The like ETF, those ETF style leverage ETF style tokens that everyone's doing now, or
Mm-hmm.
I think FTX started that, like the up down, like,
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
moon doom, like that kind of garbage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's cool in theory, but it's an absolute shit show to trade.
Yeah.
So like, just because FTX offers a bunch of cool things doesn't mean you have to trade them all, you know.
No. No. No.
But
No.
like their
Certainly
move
not.
contracts, yeah, they've moved contracts. They have actual options, which are cool. I can't
Mm-hmm.
trade on Deribit for KYC reasons
Mm-hmm.
based
Mm-hmm.
on where I currently reside.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to choose. I don't trade options very active, but I do use them, especially for hedging.
Mm-hmm.
I was using options a lot to hedge during the bull market because I kind of realized that if I sold my spot or if I tried to hedge too much with futures,
Mm-hmm.
um, I have to manage those positions and I have to worry about potentially. So I was using options to hedge on the way up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I lost the premium on the options that I bought. I bought puts, right? I bought
Mm-hmm.
puts on the way up. I think the first time we broke 30K before Tesla bought, I bought
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of puts around 34K. They were out of the money, so strike around 32K or so.
Mm-hmm.
They all ended up expiring basically worthless, and I lost a little bit of money, but I didn't lose nearly as much money as I would have if I had tried to big brain hedge just
Mm-hmm.
by shorting futures, or if I had just sold my spot, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
imagine if I'd sold my spot at 34K back in the first time we broke, I probably never would have had the conviction to buy it again. And then
Mm-hmm.
I would have like missed the entire second half of the bull market.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I use options sort of selectively for hedging when I need to. Um, but yeah, obviously FTX's options aren't their spread is they use a quote system. Have you used their I don't know if
I
you're
have not. I
familiar
have
with
not
their
used
system.
I don't use FTX personally that much. Sometimes for some future
Yeah.
stuff or some DeFi
Well,
stuff.
FTX has
Like we'll
FTX.
see.
So yeah, FTX has its own issues. They have
Mm-hmm.
uptime issues. They
Mm-hmm.
have matching engine is slow.
Mm-hmm.
They have huge amounts of slippage on stops,
Oh yeah.
and so it's not a perfect system. So I
No.
use it very carefully, and I use it for the things that it works well for. But it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not a one-stop shop, especially if you're like a scalper.
Mm-hmm.
because of the slippage. But the
Yeah.
fees, if you have a high volume, the fees are really low. So
Yeah.
so my fees on FTX are really low, great,
Mm-hmm.
and then the cross collateral is really useful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a quote system for their options. So basically, if you look at like the options book on like Deribit, for example, or whatever other exchange, they'll have like a fixed book of options where you can buy puts or calls. On FTX, they use a quote system where you actually come up with your own quote. You go into their system and you type in the information you want. So you say like, I want this strike, I want this expiry, I want it's a put and whatever. And you can even put in a price you want for it. And
Mm-hmm.
then they have market makers or even other people who can actually fill your quote.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool because it gives you the ability to come up with custom contracts for
Mm-hmm.
options. Like there's an infinite number of permutations. The downside is that it's really hard for them to make that market. It's like an infinite number of permutations, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is that the liquidity and the spread is really bad. So if you are trying to if you buy and sell options a lot, the difference between the buy and sell price or the spread of those options is really bad. So
Mm-hmm.
you can end up just paying a lot in sort of in the spread compared to someone like Deribit where the spread is actually reasonable.
Okay.
But
Okay.
at least they exist. They're usable.
Yeah. 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 I mean, Bybit is coming out with options as well, right?
I think they are, yeah, which will be I mean that'll be awesome. I am
Mm-hmm.
all for it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been following a lot. I've been so just like spread thin, but it looks like a lot of these exchanges are like cross collateral is getting really popular. I think a bunch of exchanges are starting to use cross collateral,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. It's very dangerous, but it's very useful if you use it responsibly. And then
Okay.
obviously options is like, options is the thing that a lot of exchanges are trying to get to. I think Binance has a vanilla. I think they call them vanilla options,
Mm-hmm.
which are yeah. So I think those came out in December of last year
Okay.
too.
Okay.
And yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, you know,
Okay. And what
yep,
would be your uh yeah, biggest advice for new traders basically?
yeah. I mean, I talk about this in Twitch a lot too. It's like it always changes. I have I'll link to you. I have a few Medium articles that I've written just because like I was answering a lot of these questions, and they'll help people who want to just read more in depth. But the biggest things are, I guess off the top of my head, it's like don't think that there's an easy money hack. Like you are
Mm-hmm.
going to have to learn how to trade. So I feel like trading sort of thing where you just like use your gut feeling and somehow make money.
Mm-hmm.
Your counterparty is going to be really smart, really experienced. They're going to have the best tools. They're going to have a lot of money. You're trading against the best. You
Mm-hmm.
can't just wing it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think what happens is people who are like confident in things, like there is a personality type where you're just confident
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh, I can do anything. Like I'm good at school. I'm good at work. I'm good at all of these things. I can do trading. How hard can it? And I think
Mm-hmm.
those are the people that are the most dangerous. And that was me. This idea that you are like just a good at everything, so you can do trading. Like, how hard can it be? That's like
Mm-hmm.
the worst mindset. You should assume that everything is going to go wrong. So
Mm-hmm.
take it really seriously. You need to spend time learning how to trade. There is
Mm-hmm.
no way around it. You can't just start trading with real money or not with lots of money. A lot of people have problems with paper trading. I'm not as strongly against paper trading as I think other people are personally. I think that if I had to choose between telling someone to paper trade versus having them go all with their life savings, paper trading is infinitely better. So if you have no self control, paper trading is going to be better than nothing, than trying. If
Mm-hmm.
you have a little bit of money that you can use to start trading, that's probably better. Like because then it's at least real money and you'll take it more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to paper trade, I think that that's better than nothing. The other
Mm-hmm.
reason that paper trading isn't terrible is because a lot of people don't even understand how trading works.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is something that like people don't understand. Like this gets glossed over when people talk about like how useless paper trading is. But I talk to people on my Twitch channel all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand how like stop losses work or the like limit maker taker rebate stuff. They don't
Mm-hmm.
understand the difference between like the different like mark index last trade for
Yeah.
trigger prices for stop
Mm-hmm.
losses. They don't
Mm-hmm.
understand how liquidations work. They don't understand how any of these things work. And
Mm-hmm.
like those are things that you need to learn. Like your counterparty knows. You're trading against somebody who knows this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like you already are at a disadvantage because you didn't even put in the time to like learn the basic mechanics of trading.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so if you want to learn those things, you can learn them on a demo account. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can like understand how liquidations work by getting liquidated on a demo account. You don't have to learn how liquidation by getting liquidated with real money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that make,
So
yeah.
I think there's an advantage there that people don't give enough credit. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to learn how to manage your emotions. You're not going to become an amazing trader on a obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But you can still like if you don't understand how liquidations work or how the insurance fund works or how any of the things I just said work, there's nothing shameful or wrong about just setting up a paper account to like learn how the system works and then maybe move over to a proper account. But when you do move over to a proper account, or if you're already on a proper account, you should absolutely assume that every dollar you send is money that's gone, right? So
Yeah.
you're funding an
Yeah.
account, you're learning how to trade that money second
That's
you send
gone.
it to Bybit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then journal, do something. Journaling is, I mean, it's amazing how few people do it, even though it's like so obviously ingrained in like everybody says you should journal, but very few people do something. I think one of the problems with journaling is that people try and they either don't even bother or they go too ambitious with their journaling.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get burned out. Journaling shouldn't be something that's so difficult that you like can't keep up with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So set yourself up for success. Find a system where it's really easy for you to journal so that you don't get but you want to do something. So
Mm-hmm.
the way I recommend people do something is set up like either a private Twitter account or a private Discord server or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like take a screenshot of every trade you take and throw it into some channel on your Discord server or your Twitter account and
Mm-hmm.
write a little comment about what you did. And then
Mm-hmm.
update that thing whenever you finish the trade, close it or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
then at the end of the month or whatever, maybe go through all your trades and just do a little trade review. Like I mean, imagine you work at a prop firm. Like everybody's like, "Oh, I want to work for a prop firm. It'd be so fun."
Mm-hmm.
They'll make you do trade reviews, right? They're gonna make you do
Yeah.
all this crap. So it's like
Yeah.
the idea that you like don't do it yourself is a joke. But just you don't need to like use EdgeWonk, right? Like there's software out there that's awesome, but like it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a numbers guy and you want to use EdgeWonk, that's awesome. More power to you. But you don't need to use EdgeWonk or any of these other tools that require lots of manual input or syncing up stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a simple Twitter account where you journal your trades will do wonders for you.
Mm-hmm.
So do something. Just do something, right? Like that's all you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Daily loss limits. Take them seriously. If you hit your daily loss limit, I mean, daily loss limits are like the biggest hack to trading if you follow them.
Mm-hmm.
Like what happens is people will make money for like a month and then they'll lose it all in a day, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this happens over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
If you just had a daily loss limit where you actually followed it, you could essentially eliminate that entire problem. The problem being you eventually blow up your entire account in a day. I know it's easier said than done, but like if you can find a way to follow your own loss limits, you are going to hack your own brain when it comes to trading. Write it on a sticky note, put it on your monitor. This is my daily loss limit. If I hit this, if I lose this much money in a day, I will stop trading for 24 hours or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, 48 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can follow that, you basically you can instantly eliminate one of the biggest problems that people have trading. And the rest of it I mean, the rest of it's not that hard. It's just learning. It's just screen time.
Mm-hmm.
Watch the chart, learn how technical analysis works.
Mm-hmm.
Follow, find your edge, find your system that works. It's going to be probably different than everybody else a little bit, but yeah, follow traders that you look up to as well. Don't
Mm-hmm.
copy trade them, but follow them, right? I mean, I learned how to trade by following the best. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that I copy traded them, but like I would reference their bias or reference their trades when it came to my own trades. And I mean, that's an very powerful tool that you should use to your advantage for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I think that's like the high level.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Everybody has personal problems too. There's personal issues. Like every trader has, but I think that in general, those things will eliminate most people's problems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for me, one thing is, like if you see a stop coming up, like your stop is about to get hit, try to limit out, with
Oh, for
limit sales,
sure.
and do not market, market like as less as possible, get those rebates on a
That is
Bybit
huge.
or on a BitMax, like those are little things, but they save a lot of money. And
They save so much money.
yeah.
It's unbelievable, especially when it comes to one of the biggest things that's changed how much. Like I was already profitable, but what took my trading to the next level was what you just said. Basically, managing losses manually to the best of my ability. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you need to have some protection to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that if it really goes to shit, like you don't get liquidated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like managing your losses yourself by trying to take limit maker rebates on your loss, like you're
Mm-hmm.
losing trades.
Yeah.
This between the slippage that you get from a market stop and
Mm-hmm.
the fee, you can save so much money.
Yeah.
It's like unbelievable. But obviously, like you need to be able to be in control of those decisions too,
Yeah.
right? So some
Yeah.
people, like if you can't handle it, then don't do it.
No.
Like just use stops.
Mm-hmm. I mean, use
Yeah.
stops anyway, if they get there, they get there. Another
Right.
thing is, like a stop on an index price, because sometimes through liquidations, like they can, wick through your stop, for example, and just stop you at the bottom. Like
Absolutely.
it happens to so many
Yep.
people. But I mean, those are the little things, but they add up on a year,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, those are huge too. I use the mark price for almost all of my stops. The
mm-hmm.
only time I wouldn't use the mark price for a stop would be if it's an incredibly tight priced stop, and I don't want the order to get triggered. But like if maybe the mark price is out of sync with the
Mm-hmm.
market,
Mm-hmm.
like because of whatever maybe there's just like the derivatives are at a premium, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want your stop to get triggered like when it doesn't even get close.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's like a really tight stop loss, I'll use last trade. But every other time, I'm using mark price
Mm-hmm.
personally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's another thing. I mean, these are things that like too. Like if you work at a prop firm, that's what they're using.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
your counterparty is most likely also using mark price or index price for their
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, you were on BitMax, I was on BitMax. Nowadays, the market is a lot more stable in that way. I don't know how to say it, but English is not
Yeah,
my main
it's more
language.
diverse.
But
Yeah, the risk is diverse too. There's risk. The risk is spread out across different exchanges.
I mean, back in the day on BitMax, how it wicked, right? And how the slippage could
Yeah,
have been, like I mean,
there
catching.
was a period of time when it was like out of control too. Like it was like there was a point, I think in like late 2019, where they were just having like infinite system overload. I
Yeah,
mean, the system overload was a problem for a long time, but there was a point where like you basically couldn't exit your position because
yeah,
the wick would just go. It would just go forever.
yeah.
Um. So yeah.
I mean,
No, there's
stops.
options. You have choices now. Choose
Yeah.
choose an exchange that works for you, right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to trade on Bybit. Trade wherever
No.
you want to
Mm-hmm.
trade,
Yeah.
but think about where, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't just blindly trade on an exchange because it's the only exchange you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, there are options out there. Um, yeah. I mean, I think that's basically it
Mm-hmm.
for people who are beginning. Just take it seriously. Follow people on Twitter who you look up to, but don't copy trade them.
Mm-hmm.
And then set yourself up for success. Trade small,
Mm-hmm.
journal, take
Mm-hmm.
your losses early,
Mm-hmm.
daily loss limits,
Mm-hmm.
stop losses,
Yeah.
take breaks, or have a system, to
Yeah.
protect your tail risk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Make sure to follow Samwise on Twitch, guys. Link is in the video description. Make sure to follow him on Twitter, of course, as well. If there's anything else Sam wants to share with you guys, I will put the links in the video descriptions. And that is really about it. Do you have something to add,
Cool.
Sam?
No, that's it. I really appreciate you reaching out. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Cool. I
same for me.
appreciate it.
Same for me. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for your time,
Awesome.
and have a good
Yep.
weekend.
All right. Take care.
Take
Good luck
care.
trading.